Hello, and welcome to the Bamboo Lab podcast with your host, Peak Performance Coach Brian Bosley. Are you stuck on the hamster wheel of life, spinning and spinning, but not really moving forward? Are you ready to jump off and soar? Are you finally ready to sculpt your life? If so, you've landed in the right place. This podcast is created and broadcast just for you. All of you strivers, thrivers, and survivors out there. If you'd like to learn more about Brian and the Bamboo Lab, feel free to reach out to explore your true peak level at www.bamboolab3.com.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Bamboo Lab podcast. I'm your host, Brian Bosley. And before we get started today, I want to share with you some of the latest analytics as of this morning. We are now being broadcast still on 6 continents, 40 countries, all 50 states, and now in 1,033 cities around this great planet. I want to read a heart letter today that we got a couple of weeks ago from actually a friend of mine, and she said, "Oh my God, it's amazing. I'm going to listen to the third one and read the other ones to see how they can help me get through days. But I'm definitely going to be listening to these daily now. I really, really needed this. Totally forgot you were doing this. So listeners, it's so good that listeners can listen and get fed." I want to thank that friend and the Bamboo Pack member for reaching out. Those kind of letters mean the world to me. So please keep them coming in. Before we get started today, please, as you go through today's podcast, if you find value in it, please rate us, review us, smash that like button, subscribe, and please share it with 3 people you love. Just pass it on through text or email, or just share with them, hey, you might want to go to the Bamboo Lab podcast and check this episode out. Well, today you have me alone. I decided to do a monologue podcast because we are coming up on the end of 2022. A couple of weeks left today as we record this is December 12th, and we've only got, 3 weeks left. So today's topic is your 12 wins for 23. Now, I want to share, I would like to take full credit for this, but I can't. I've got a good friend of mine, someone I've worked with alongside of for over a decade now. This goes out to Scott Rethke, branch manager, highly successful financial advisor with Ameriprise Financial out of Seattle, Washington. One day we were talking on the phone, I think it was 2.5 months ago, and he said, "Brian, one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm deciding what I want my 12 wins to be for 2023. And I said, "Well, why the number 12? And I don't know, just a good number." I'm like, "Yeah, as good a number as any." So I told him, I said, "Scott, I'm taking this, man. I'm running with this thing. I'm going to adapt this. I'm going to put a bunch of bells and whistles on this thing, and I'm going to make this coachable for my clients, for myself, for my loved ones, and now for the Bamboo Pack members out there." So here we go. Let's dissect this. I want you to think right now, 1 year from today. It's the end of December 2023. And you are a much more advanced version of the person listening to this podcast right now. You are better in so many different ways, personally, professionally, your health, your mental and emotional capacity, your intellect, your finances, your relationships. What has to have happened in these next 12 months for that to occur? What are 12 things that you, once you accomplish them next year, will move the needle and make you a completely better human being? 12 wins. So if you're driving right now, if you're walking, exercising, running, or at a place where you can't write these down, I'm sure things have already come to your mind. Normally, when you do this exercise, I find that you come up with 3 or 4 right away. Oh, yeah, I've got some good ideas. That's what happened to me. After I got off the phone with Scott 2.5 months ago, I sat down and started writing. And 3 or 4 came right away. Then I stalled a bit. And then I used some techniques and some exercises that really helped my mind go to really realize what are the 12 big wins for me for next year. And I guess really, quite frankly, I probably have a lot more to work on than most people. I have a lot more things I need to improve on because my biggest problem was after a while, I went way beyond 12. And whittling it down to 12 was the biggest challenge, having to prioritize one win over another. So here's the idea. I wouldn't go over 12, but if you don't quite get to 12, don't freak out about it. If you did the homework, you've done the work we're going to recommend today, and you land at 8 or 9 or 10 or 11, and you just can't think of more, don't force it. Those are your wins for next year. And when you accomplish those, the needle will be moved for you dramatically. But here's the thing. Here's why there's so many reasons why less than 10% of Americans reach their financial or their New Year's resolutions every year. I do believe one of them is the fact that when you put one or two things on paper and you go for it, you tend to dim out everything else around you. And unless those one or two resolutions are incredibly impactful in multiple areas of your life, you're probably going to, if you do achieve those and become one of those 90% who, or one of the 10% who do, you're going to move the needle for you. But you might drop the needle in other areas of your life. How many times have we heard of someone who's reached an incredible professional goal, but has lost his or her family, lost a connection with their children, lost a connection with their spouse? Their health has suffered. Their stress has gone up. They've gained weight. The beauty of this idea is because it's holistic. You want to have a good ratio of personal and professional wins in there. Because of that, you're not just putting the spotlight on one or two things and blacking everything else out around you. You're putting 12 things that you're going to maintain light on for the rest of the year. Now, granted, probably 2, 3, or 4 of those are going to be incredibly important wins, and you're going to maintain a spotlight on those. But while you're accomplishing those, you're going to keep a flashlight on the other 8 or 9 wins that are very important as well. Now, you're probably thinking, 12 is a lot, Brian. I'm busy enough as it is. We're not busy in society right now because we have too much work. That's bullshit. We are busy, and I know many of you are dropping your mouths right now thinking, well, you don't know me. I am. Yeah. No, I work with a lot of people who are very, very professional, very successful, accomplished people, just like you. They're not busy because they have too much work. None of us are, even though I think I am at times. We are busy because we don't know how to handle the amount of work we have. And the only way to handle that, the amount of work is not going to go down. We have to increase our capacity to handle that workload, to work more efficiently, more effectively, more proficiently. And the only way to do that is to elevate ourselves in multiple arenas and multiple capacities, both personally and professionally. So when you think, well, I'm too busy now, the idea of this is to help you to handle the busyness, because we can't eradicate the busyness. We have to step up to the level of what it demands, not demand that it steps down to our level of ability right now. And what I meant by that earlier when I said having more doesn't necessarily take more time, because I'm a firm believer that a high tide raises all ships. And as I increase my ability in one of my 12 wins and I get better at that during the year, it's going to help me to create more wins in the other ones. It's going to elevate the other wins. Great example. If one of your 12 wins is to start, or one of your wins is to start exercising, another one is to eat better, another one is to stop smoking cigarettes. Those are 3 wins, major wins. Do you think those 3 wins are going to make it more difficult for you to produce better quality work where you're employed? No, it's going to make it easier. You're going to have more energy, more confidence, more composure. Do you think by exercising more, eating better, quitting smoking cigarettes is going to hurt your ability to be a better spouse or a parent? No, it's dramatically going to increase that, because you're going to be happier with yourself. You're going to be healthier. You're going to extend your longevity on the planet to spend more quality time with your loved ones. You're going to feel that ability, and you're going to feel a better role model to the people around you. Each one of these wins supports the other wins. It doesn't compete with it. The question is, how do you get these wins? Now, I have to look, I think I mentioned earlier, it took me a while to get my wins. Most of the exercise was me trying to get it from 16 or 18 down to 12. But I was stuck for a while. When I first did the exercise, I came up with 4 right away. I think it was 4. And most of my clients are finding that. They come up with 3 or 4 or 5 right away. Then they get stuck. So the ones you originally put down, pretty good chance those are, you instinctively knew those were wins you wanted and needed to accomplish next year. So keep them on there if you can. But if you feel stuck and you can't get to 12, go through a simple exercise. Start, stop, continue. Sit down and ask yourself the question, what are some things I want to start doing that I'm not doing right now that will have a really positive impact on the life of myself and the people around me? And write those down. Next question. What are some things that I'm doing now that I want to stop doing because it's causing harm or it's not advancing me or anyone else? Write those things down. And the third question, what are some things I want to continue to do that I'm currently doing or maybe did in the past that worked? I just want to do it better or more. Then write those things down. There's a very high probability that by doing that, you're going to get to 12. And one of the things I want to share with you is, with especially this question of what are some things I want to continue to do. Whatever they are, make sure you're doing them better. Next year, you'll do them better or more than you did this year. Because the idea of a win, in order for you to win, you have to have a competitor. Maybe an enemy. And in this case, the competitor is the person you are right now. So a good example, if you exercised 50 times last year and you say, I'm going to exercise 50 times next year, that's not a win because you tied with this year. And your competition is what you did and who you were this year. So you have to make certain that you have an increase next year over what you did this year, if it's something you're continuing to do. Your competition is who you are in 2022. Because by the end of next year, you want to be substantially better. We've gone through so much bull in this country, in the world over the past 3 years. We've had economic upheaval. We've had forced quarantines and pandemics. We've had political upheaval. We're coming out of some of this right now. It's time for all of us to level up and become the best version of ourselves in 2023. 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you should be able to look back and say 2023 was the year that defined the person I am today. This is your year coming up. It's not 24, it's not 25, it's 2023. Let's take it to the next level. And the way we do that, one of the ways we do that, are the 12 wins. Build it organically. You only have 2.5 weeks before the end of the year, so start writing things down. But don't force answers. Don't ask your boss or your spouse or your other people, what should my wins be? These are your wins. They should come from you. Build them organically. And make sure they're holistic. You have a good blend of personal and professional. I would hate to see you become incredibly successful at work, then lose some things that are important to you in your personal life. I would hate to see you build an incredible relationship or incredible improvements in your personal life, but fail miserably in your professional life. The ratio doesn't have to be 6 personal, 6 professional. It can be whatever you want. Just make sure both sides of your life are represented. And a really good way to do this, in fact, a client of mine brought this up in an exercise on how he's doing it. He put his into 3 categories: personal growth, professional growth, and rewards. So you can use the start, stop, continue exercise questioning if you find you're stuck, or if you want to categorize it a little better. This client did 4 things that were things he's going to improve on that will grow him as a person. Meditate. Exercise. Then he put things that he was going to do to improve himself professionally. He was going to get a new designation. He was going to read X amount of books on leadership. Then he put 4 things down that he was going to do to reward himself and others. One was to take a trip he always wanted to take for 2 weeks. One was he was going to donate X amount of time with a charitable organization in his city. So those are good ways to somehow organize it, because some of my clients really flew through this thing and they had them down. I didn't. I needed some little tools like these that I just mentioned for me to get to those final 12. So if you find you need them, start, stop, continue, accept, or categorize them in certain groups like personal, professional, rewards that might really help you. The idea, however, is these aren't goals. They're not resolutions. They're expectations. If you're going to do this exercise and you're going to level up to the highest quality person you can be by the end of 2023, you have to expect that you're going to hit these wins. You have to make the wins non-negotiable. No matter what happens, hell or high water, I'm going to exceed and achieve every one of these wins. Because some people might say, well, I had 12 wins. I got 11. That's great. It is great. It really is. It's a winning season. It's not a national championship or a world championship season, though. You need to go undefeated to hit that true highest echelon of what you could be next year. Because this is not an exercise you do 1 year and quit. It's an exercise you should do, I would recommend you do every year. And if you make it okay to miss 1, I'll guarantee in 24 you're going to miss 2. In 25 you're going to miss 3. And it's going to continue to snowball down that way. Non-negotiable. It's like raising a child. Forgetting to change your kid's diaper before they go to bed, yeah, that's negotiable. Locking your kid in a hot car while you're running to Walmart, non-negotiable. Now, I'm exaggerating for effect and comparing the two, but that's how we have to think about these 12 wins. They should be the center point of your world for the next 12 months, beginning in January 1st of 2023. Because they move the needle on all parts of your life. Not just will these 12 wins be affected, but your entire life outside of these 12 victories, these 12 expectations, these 12 things you're going to accomplish, everything else will be impacted by these. So make sure you're represented in that holistic way, like I said, not just making money, not just better health. Make sure there's a good mixture. And these goals don't have to be all huge, these expectations don't have to be huge. I think some are going to be average size. I have 4 that came out that were massive for me. Big game changers for my business. And then the other ones just were other things that are going to have such a big impact on my life, but they're not as time consuming. And some things actually save time. If you're giving up a habit, that's going to save time. It's going to take discipline and willpower, but it's going to save time. Running to the store to pick up cigarettes will be saved. And I want to stress, if you're giving up something, you're not giving it up January 1st of 23. You're saying over the course of the 12 months, I'm going to eradicate this bad habit out of my life, this bad relationship, this bad friend group out of my life. So you take the time over the course of the year to make it happen. 12 wins, man. It's non-negotiable. And I don't know if a lot of people don't have this, but a really good way to look at this is if you have a list of values. I don't like the word values. I never have. I like the word the term life foundations. If you know what those are for you, the things that you believe in most in this world, the things, and things including people as well, that are most important to you, You can base your 12 wins off of those. Just a couple of years ago, I've always had a list of values, and it never sat well with me. And so I sat down, or not sat down, I thought about it over the course of a few weeks, and I thought, okay, if I'm here, I'm me, what is my foundation? What are the 5 things? And I always like the number 3 or 5 a lot. It can be more. It can be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What are my foundations in life that I stand on, that support me, that I protect, and it holds me up? And it came to me. It's my family, my body, my mind, my spirit, and my wealth. Those are the things that I work for every day. So when I'm working with a client, I know I have to give him or her the greatest possible service in order for me to honor my family and for me to build my wealth. When I'm talking to my fine Bamboo Pack members out there and we're having conversations, I'm interviewing the inspiring guests we bring on, same thing. I'm honoring my family by doing quality work at the highest level, at least that I know how to, and I'm creating wealth. Wealth not just for me, and not even just for my family. Wealth for the things I can do to make this world a better place down the road. So if you have a list of these values or principles, or as I call them, life foundations, that can be a really good tool, because when I sat down, I wanted to make sure when I list my 12 wins, and next year when I accomplish those 12 wins, I want to make sure that every one of my 5 life foundations is positively impacted by those wins. The thing is, here's a challenge though. And this, as we put this together over the past 2 months, we were kind of learning as we we're going, okay, what works, what doesn't work. And one of the things I hear a lot is people say things like, well, I'm going to exercise 4 times a week. And that seems like a good one. It doesn't qualify. And here's why. When you get your list of 12, or let's say you land at 10, when you get your final list completed and you look at that, look at each one of them and put it through this litmus test of 3 questions. Number 1, is each one of these measurable? Number 2, is each one of these impactful? Will they move the needle of my life? And number 3, is each one of these better than what I did in 2022? So let's go to measurable. Measurable. I had one particular client who said, I want to become a better communicator. I said, okay, that's a great win, but I can't measure it. It's not a win if at the end of the year you have to say, yeah, I think I'm a better communicator. I think I am. Yeah. That's not a win. It's not objective. So if you find that, and you're going to find some of your wins are that way. So then go a step deeper and say, what do I need to do to become a better communicator? And for this individual, we've decided if you read 3 books on communication over the course of the year, if you attend 3 online seminars or training sessions, and if you hire 1 communication coach or counselor that you work with once a month for 12 times, I should say, over the course of the year, you will become a better communicator. So now we can measure those. Read 3 books, attend 3 seminars, do 12 sessions with the communication expert, and do the exercises he or she says. You will become a better communicator. So it's got to be measurable. Another little trick to this is a lot of people wrote on theirs as my clients something to the effect of, I'm going to work out 4 times a week. So in their conversations and our coaching sessions, I'd say, okay, first of all, define a workout. Because if I stand up right now in the middle of this podcast and do 2 jumping jacks, that's technically a workout. But is it really? So define it. The more specific you are with your wins and those expectations, the more your alligator brain's going to wrap around those. And you're going to be motivated because you will know whether or not objectively you are on path to get to your goal or to your expectation, your win. It won't be, yeah, I think I am. I did 2 jumping jacks yesterday. No. So we define it. It's different for every client. One client was 30 minutes of solid workout 4 days a week. Good. And we can measure that. Other clients were 1 hour, but 3 days a week or 4 days. We can measure that. But here's the question. If your goal is weekly or your win is weekly or monthly, and let's just say your expectation, your win is to work out 3 times a week this year. What if on February 7th you come down with the flu and you can't work out that week? Your goal, your win, your expectation can no longer be met because you missed a week. So don't track your wins and your expectation. Don't do them by a period of time, like a week or per month. Take it and say per year. So if your expectation, your win is to work out 4 times a week, take 4 times a number of weeks. But I'm going to recommend this. Don't do anything by 52 weeks. Because I know you're probably going to take 2 to 3 weeks vacation and you're probably going to be sick for a week or something's going to happen. So it's really good to take a number and times it by 48 to 49 weeks. So if it's something you want to do 10 times you wanted to do it 10 times a week, you would say, I'm going to do it 480 times next year. Some weeks you might do whatever it is 20 times. Some weeks you might do it 4 or 5. For me, a good example is I have in there an expectation of doing 200 1-hour workouts in the year 2023. Now, I don't know if some weeks I'll get 5 in, some weeks I'll get 3 in, some weeks I'll get 6 in, some weeks I won't get any in. But at the end of the year, 200 is my expectation. So annualize every one of your expectations, every one of your wins. And one of the things that I think that people find, and I don't know because we're fairly new at this, obviously, is I think what will happen is some of us may realize as we're doing the exercise in 23 that maybe one of those wins wasn't really a win you really wanted. Maybe something new came up that's more important. So what I would recommend is take the first month or two and allow that to be an adjustment time. Try not to go over that, though. If you can get it in the first month, better yet. So if you realize that one of my goals was one of my wins was to become a district manager in 2023. Well, now I'm not working for that company anymore. Make the adjustment. Make the adjustment so that you stay motivated. Try to do it definitely within the first quarter. You might find that some of your expectations were a little high. Some may be a little too low. Some of you felt like you rushed to do them. Don't give up on the exercise if you can make adjustments, especially in the beginning part of the year, to stay on track with your expectations and your wins. Don't say, I'll do it next year in 24. That way you've wasted an entire year. And all the other people who are doing their 12 wins are elevating and leveling up to their highest potential peak level. And you're stagnating. You're too good for that. Make the adjustments as you need, but try to do it really early in the first quarter of 2023. One of the things that we're going to struggle with, which we all do, is how do you hold yourself accountable? How do you make sure that these New Year's resolutions, these goals, or that we have stay away? We stay away from that terminology. We stay away from that mindset of that's what they are, because that isn't what they are. They are expectations. They're wins. They're transformational behaviors and actions that you're going to take to become the best damn person you've ever become in your life. 23 is the year. How do we make sure they never become, okay, I'm okay if I hit it, if I don't, or I'm so far off track, I don't think I have a chance, I'm demotivated, I'm disengaged. Best way to do that? A buddy system. Have a friend out there or a couple of friends that you do this with. Sit down, have them listen to the podcast, put your own 12 wins together, and sit down and say, we're going to have monthly meetings, phone call, voice, FaceTime call, Zoom call, Microsoft Teams call, face-to-face, whatever it is, where you just sit down and give each other updates. And if you do this, it's going to make the probability of these staying away from being just goals and resolutions to actual expectations and being non-negotiable. It's going to make that probability go up dramatically. But here's how you have to do it. If we're going to have a buddy system, it can't just be, hey, let's just all give updates. Okay, I'm on pace for this one. I'm not on pace for that one. Anybody listen to the game last night? No, how's work going? No. That's not what these calls are for. These are not sit around and have small. You can do that at a different time. These meetings, these buddy system check-ins have to be focused strictly on that. You can all hang up and call back if you want and talk about personal things, but right now it's only specifically, solely for you to give updates on your 12 wins and where you are. And if you have a buddy system, we have to make sure we follow 3 rules. A buddy system only works if all the buddies in the system do 3 things. Number 1, they all celebrate successes together. They do that. They rah-rah each other. They inspire each other. They motivate each other. Number 2, they support each other. There's always going to be a person in the group or more who's getting discouraged, who may be falling behind, becoming disengaged. That's when we rally, we circle the wagons, we pick them up, and we support them to get them back on track. And the third thing a buddy system has to do, each buddy has to do in the system, is challenge. When somebody's clearly not doing the exercise, they're not putting in the time, they're being negative about the process, about themselves or others, that's when we step up and challenge them. We challenge them out of love and respect. Celebrate, support, challenge. Those 3 pieces of glue will hold that buddy system incredibly powerfully. Maybe you don't want to do a buddy system like that. What you could do is do a 12 wins A team or accountability team. Pick a few people around the planet who you respect, who you don't want to let down. You want to shine in their eyes. Could be family, friends, coworkers, ex-boss, ex-professor. It could be anybody. And let them know that you're doing this exercise for 2023. List out, email them and ask them, would you be okay allowing me to check in with you once per month? If they say yes, which they will, email them and say, these are the 12 wins I've established for 2023. They are non-negotiable. You have my full permission to challenge me if you find that I'm off track. And then once a month, you give them an update on each one of your 12 wins. Where you're at, are you on pace? What challenges are you facing? What big successes are you having? What learnings are you having? And give them permission to challenge you if necessary. It doesn't take a lot of time for them. They just have to read your wins. They have to know what they are. And they have to read your monthly updates. It will take them all of about 5 minutes per month, if that. And if they feel the need to come out and challenge you or give you some motivation or some kudos or support or celebration, by all means they can, but they don't have to. Just by the fact that you know these individuals around the planet, whoever they might be in your hometown. They might all be in your family. Whoever they are, as long as you know they're reading those updates, you're going to be working just as much for them as you are for yourself. And that's okay, as long as the 12 wins are achieved. Because you're the true beneficiary. You are the benefactor of all of these wins. And all these people you love around you, all these people who you take care of around you, whether it be family, friends, customers, clients, coworkers, they're all going to benefit dramatically from the newer, improved version of you in 12 months. This process, I believe, is a game changer. I wish I had created it. All I did is put bells and whistles on it and made it coachable. This is stuff that I firmly believe, after 26 years of coaching, is going to change more lives than just about anything I've ever heard of or coached on. Now, you can't just list 12 things. We all know that. Putting things on paper isn't the end all. That's the start. But now, once you make sure that they go through the litmus test and they passed it, measurable, impactful, better or more than last year, boom. Now, track it. Put a little spreadsheet together. I don't care if you put it on a legal pad and write it down. If your goal, see, I slip on this word goal a lot. Your wins and expectations are to work out 200 times next year. Put that on a piece of paper, and every time you win, put a hash mark. Or every time you exercise, put a hash mark. If your expectation is to attend church 30 times, boom. Every time you attend mass or church or service, put a hash mark. Track that thing. Every time you do something, go to that sheet and track it. Pin it up where you can see it. What we respect or what we inspect, we respect. So if you're inspecting something quite often, seeing that paper, seeing those wins, seeing where you are, how many you have or don't have, see if you're on pace. When we inspect that more and more, we begin to respect it. We'll begin to respect the process. We'll begin to see that this truly is non-negotiable. Let me share with you some of the ones I've heard so far. I've heard, I don't know how many hundreds of different responses so far, but some of them are very simple. And I'll share with all of you because this has been one I have procrastinated on because of my intellectual laziness for years now, is that my book will finally be done, at least as far as I can take it, by September 1st of 2023. That was one of mine that I'm sharing with everybody out there because now I have a big A team, because that was the first one that came to mind. And I have felt shame and not embarrassment, but a lot of shame really that I have allowed myself to procrastinate on such a massive goal for so long. I have heard a lot on physical exercise. I have heard a lot of, I will exercise, 200 times next year, 100 times next year for 30 minutes, for 45 minutes, for an hour. I will finish a half marathon. I will read 3 books. One person's was, I will read 1 book in 2023. Did you read a book last year? Nope. Then that's considered a win. Some people, it's quit smoking, quit chewing tobacco, minimize alcohol to 2 drinks a week. So that would be 100 drinks a year. I've heard, I'm going to surprise my spouse 21 times. I'm going to surprise my spouse 12 times. I'm going to do one quality thing with one child each week. Each of my children, once a week. I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes a day, twice a month. Some of these aren't even massive. They're just measurable, impactful, and better than you did last year. Now, if we only had a bunch of small ones on there, yeah, you're going to move the needle. You're going to be a better person. But why go for incrementally better when you can be massively better next year with only a few minor tweaks? And like I said earlier, as we improve and work on one of the wins, it benefits all of the other wins. So doing more isn't necessarily going to cause more work. I know for a fact that when I work out 200 times next year, it's going to cause me to be a much, much better writer. It's going to help me do a much more effective podcasting and serve my clients much more effectively, to be much more engaged and present when I'm with my family, and vice versa. So don't let the magnitude or the number 12 or the magnitude and size of some of these wins to really throw you off. They're only going to help. They're going to feed off of each other. They're going to support each other. They're going to help each other grow. 12 wins for 23. I can't stress enough the importance of this exercise. It could be a game changer. It's just not one of those things you play with lightly. You don't dance around it. You don't kiss it on the cheek. This is something you would take in your heart and you make it the most important thing you do next year, is that you don't settle for anything less than 12 wins. I promise you. No matter what happens on the outside, We're all going to face difficulty next year. Some people will face disasters and tragedies next year. But I rest assured we're all going to face bad things next year, internally and externally. We're going to face those anyway. Why not be a much stronger, much more advanced human being next year as we face what we're going to face? So that at the end of the year, you can say, no matter what happened this year, the bad things that happened, I am still a far better person than I was December 31st of 2022. And it's all because of my 12 wins for 23. All right, Bamboo Pack, thank you for taking the time out to listen to this special episode this week. I really do appreciate all of you. It's fun sometimes to just talk directly to you. I love my guests. I love the conversations. I'm so blessed to have these amazing people come on and talk to all of us. But sometimes I just want to talk directly to you. And that today was special. I'll talk to you in a few days again. In the meantime, get out there and sculpt your life. You have a true peak identity lying inside there. You have that pure angelic form of your mental, emotional, and physical self. Sculpt all that excess marble around it and find that true peak identity. And trust me, one of the best ways to start that this year is the 12 wins for 23. Thank you all.